You're 200 feet beneath the Mediterranean Sea, your diving lights cutting through the eternal darkness, when your underwater metal detector starts screaming. The sonar readings show a massive object buried in the sandy bottom, something that's been hidden here for over 2,000 years. As you brush away centuries of sediment, expecting to find ancient pottery or maybe some Roman coins, your hand touches something that makes your blood run cold even in the frigid water. It's human bone. Not one skeleton, but dozens. Bodies stacked on top of each other in the ship's hull like cargo, their positions frozen in time. But it's the detail that your underwater camera captures that will haunt forensic investigators for years. Every skull shows the same distinctive fracture pattern, a precise, methodical wound that could only have been made by someone systematically executing every person aboard this ancient vessel. You're floating above a 2,000-year-old mass grave, but the question that will drive modern science to its limits is this: why would someone murder an entire ship's crew and passengers, then sink the vessel to hide their crimes? And why are your detection instruments picking up traces of modern explosives mixed in with the ancient wreckage? This is the story of the Mare Nostrum, a Roman merchant vessel that vanished without a trace in 47 BCE, carrying what historians believed was a routine cargo of olive oil and wine. But in 2024, when marine archaeologists finally located the wreck off the coast of Sicily, they discovered evidence of one of history's most brutal mass murders, and forensic analysis would reveal that this ancient crime was connected to modern maritime terrorism and human trafficking operations that continue to claim victims in the same waters today. This is the ancient shipwreck full of bodies, all murdered. The discovery began routinely enough. Dr. Isabella Romano, a marine archaeologist from the University of Bologna, was leading a research expedition funded by the European Union to catalog ancient shipwrecks in the Mediterranean. Her team had been methodically surveying the seabed between Sicily and Tunisia, an area that had been a major shipping route during the height of the Roman Empire. The Mare Nostrum project, named after the Roman term for the Mediterranean Sea, was supposed to be a straightforward archaeological survey. Dr. Romano and her international team were documenting the remains of ancient commerce, hoping to better understand trade patterns and daily life in the Roman world. They had already catalogued 17 shipwrecks over 3 months of diving, each one adding valuable information to the historical record. But when they descended to investigate what sonar readings suggested was an unusually large and well-preserved vessel, Dr. Romano realized they had found something that would challenge everything historians thought they knew about Roman maritime security and ancient crime. The ship lay in a natural depression in the seafloor, protected from currents and covered by layers of sand that had preserved it in remarkable condition. Initial measurements suggested it was approximately 120 feet long, a substantial merchant vessel that would have been capable of carrying several hundred tons of cargo and dozens of crew members and passengers. As the team began the careful process of excavation, removing sand and sediment to expose the ship's structure, they expected to find the usual artifacts of ancient maritime trade, amphora filled with wine or oil, ceramic vessels, perhaps some coins or jewelry. Instead, they found evidence of violence that had been hidden beneath the Mediterranean for 2 millennia. Dr. Romano's diving partner, marine archaeologist Dr. James Mitchell from the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, was the first to discover the human remains. Working in the ship's stern section, Mitchell's underwater vacuum was clearing sediment when he uncovered what appeared to be a complete human skeleton still lying where it had fallen over 2,000 years ago. But as more of the ship was revealed, the team realized they weren't looking at a few unfortunate sailors who had gone down with their vessel. They were uncovering evidence of systematic murder on a scale that defied everything they understood about ancient maritime travel. The bodies were everywhere. In the crew quarters, families with children had been arranged in precise rows. In the cargo hold, what appeared to be wealthy passengers still wore expensive jewelry and carried personal possessions that indicated high social status. Most disturbing of all, in the ship's lower levels, dozens of individuals had been chained together, evidence that the Mare Nostrum had been carrying human cargo alongside its legitimate trade goods. Dr. Romano's underwater photography revealed details that would later prove crucial to understanding what had happened aboard the ancient vessel. The positioning of the bodies suggested they hadn't died in a shipwreck or storm. They had been killed deliberately, methodically, by someone with both the opportunity and the means to murder an entire ship's population. As the team worked to document their discovery, using underwater 3D scanning technology to preserve every detail of the crime scene, they began to realize that they weren't just investigating an ancient tragedy. The sophisticated methods used to sink the ship and conceal the evidence suggested knowledge and planning that went far beyond what should have been available to ancient criminals. Dr. Mitchell's underwater metal detection equipment began picking up anomalous readings throughout the wreck site, traces of materials that shouldn't exist in a 2,000-year-old shipwreck. Chemical analysis would later confirm that someone had been visiting this site in modern times, and not for archaeological purposes. Meet Dr. Isabella Romano, 38, a marine archaeologist whose groundbreaking work combining underwater excavation techniques with forensic science has revolutionized understanding of ancient maritime crimes. Isabella doesn't just study how people lived and traded in the ancient world, she specializes in understanding how they died, particularly when death came through violence that was then covered up by those in power. Dr. Romano grew up in a family of fishermen in the small Sicilian port town of Marsala, where stories of ancient shipwrecks and lost treasures were part of local folklore. Her childhood was spent diving in the same waters where Roman galleys had once carried grain from North Africa to feed the empire, and her intimate knowledge of Mediterranean currents and underwater terrain made her uniquely qualified to locate and excavate ancient vessels. But Isabella's expertise went beyond traditional archaeology. Her doctoral thesis had focused on applying modern forensic techniques to ancient crime scenes, and she had spent 5 years working with international law enforcement agencies to develop protocols for investigating historical murders. Her work had already solved 3 cold cases involving suspicious deaths in ancient Rome, earning her recognition as one of the world's leading experts in forensic archaeology. The investigation centers on the passengers and crew of the Mare Nostrum, a merchant vessel that had been traveling from Alexandria, Egypt to Rome in 47 BCE when it vanished without a trace. Based on cargo manifests discovered in Egyptian archives, the ship had been carrying approximately 180 people, including crew members, paying passengers, and what Roman documents euphemistically described as human assets, slaves being transported to Roman markets. The ship's captain, Marcus Flavius Nauticus, was an experienced mariner who had been sailing Mediterranean trade routes for over 20 years. Roman records suggest he was a respected figure in the merchant community, known for his ability to navigate dangerous waters and deliver valuable cargo safely. His sudden disappearance had been noted by Roman authorities, but no investigation had been conducted because ships were regularly lost to storms and pirates. Among the passengers were wealthy Roman families returning from business ventures in Egypt, including Senator Gaius Cornelius Maximus and his wife and 3 children, who had been traveling with a substantial retinue of servants and guards. Also aboard were Greek merchants, Egyptian traders, and what Roman documents identified as provincial officials, whose specific duties remained unclear in historical records. Dr. Romano's investigation team includes forensic pathologist Dr. Elena Vasquez from Madrid, whose expertise in analyzing ancient trauma has provided crucial insights into how the victims died. DNA specialist Dr. Sarah Kim from Seoul National University brings cutting-edge genetic analysis techniques that can extract information from even severely degraded underwater specimens. The team also includes underwater forensics expert Dr. Marcus Weber from Berlin, who specializes in crime scene analysis in marine environments, and digital reconstruction specialist Dr. James Taylor from MIT, whose computer modeling techniques can recreate ancient crime scenes with extraordinary accuracy. But the investigation takes a modern criminal turn with the involvement of Captain Maria Santos from the Italian Coast Guard's anti-trafficking unit, who has been tracking contemporary human trafficking operations in the same Mediterranean waters where the Mare Nostrum was found. Santos's investigation suggests that the ancient shipwreck may have been targeted by modern criminals seeking to hide evidence of ongoing crimes. The Mediterranean Sea where the Mare Nostrum was discovered has been a crossroads of civilization for thousands of years, but it has also been a highway for criminals throughout history. The same routes used by ancient merchants to transport goods have been used by pirates, slavers, and human traffickers across millennia. Modern satellite surveillance shows that the area where the ancient ship was found is still frequented by vessels involved in illegal activities. Dr. Romano's team also includes marine geologist Dr. Ahmed Hassan from Alexandria University, whose knowledge of Mediterranean seafloor geology helps explain how the ship came to rest in its current location, and forensic anthropologist Dr. Rebecca Morgan from the University of Edinburgh, whose expertise in ancient population dynamics provides context for understanding who the victims were and why they might have been targeted. The modern investigation began when routine sonar mapping of the seafloor revealed an anomaly that didn't match any known geological features. Initial analysis suggested a large artificial structure that had been buried under sediment for centuries, but the sophisticated scanning equipment also detected metallic objects that appeared to be much newer than the surrounding archaeological material. The discovery of the Mare Nostrum wreck site occurred during a period of increased concern about human trafficking in the Mediterranean, as rescue organizations and law enforcement agencies documented rising numbers of migrants and refugees attempting dangerous sea crossings. The irony that an ancient mass murder was discovered in the same waters where modern tragedies were occurring daily was not lost on the international team of investigators. As Dr. Romano's team began the complex process of underwater excavation, they realized they were working not just at an archaeological site, but at an active crime scene that spanned over 2,000 years. The sophisticated preservation of evidence, the careful concealment of the wreck, and the presence of modern contamination all suggested that someone had been protecting this ancient secret for contemporary purposes. Based on forensic reconstruction, historical records, and advanced analysis of the evidence recovered from the seafloor, Dr. Isabella Romano's team has pieced together what they believe were the final hours of the Mare Nostrum voyage, which ended in mass murder somewhere in the Mediterranean Sea during the autumn of 47 BCE. The timeline begins approximately 3 days before the massacre, when Roman harbor records from Alexandria show the Mare Nostrum departing Egypt with its full complement of passengers, crew, and cargo. The ship had been loaded with luxury goods destined for Roman markets, Egyptian glassware, precious stones, fine textiles, and exotic spices that would have been worth a fortune in Rome. Historical reconstruction suggests that Captain Marcus Flavius Nauticus had been following standard Mediterranean shipping routes, staying close to the coastline during daylight hours and anchoring in protected bays at night. The journey from Alexandria to Rome typically took 2 to 3 weeks, depending on weather conditions and the number of stops made for resupply and passenger embarkation. Evidence suggests that on what would be the ship's final day, the Mare Nostrum had been approached by another vessel, possibly a Roman galley flying official imperial flags. Forensic analysis of rope fibers and metal fragments found embedded in the ship's hull indicates that the two vessels had been tied together, allowing the transfer of people and cargo between them. Isotope analysis of preserved organic materials found in the wreck suggests that the crew had prepared and served a normal evening meal on the day of the massacre. The discovery of cooking implements and food remains in their original positions indicates that the attack had come suddenly, without warning, while the ship's occupants were engaged in routine activities. Forensic pathologist Dr. Elena Vasquez's analysis of the skeletal remains reveals that the murders had been carried out with military precision. The victims showed evidence of having been killed by trained soldiers using standard Roman military weapons, gladii, short swords, and pugins, daggers, that would have been carried by legionnaires or auxiliary troops. The positioning of the bodies throughout the ship tells a story of systematic execution rather than battle or piracy. In the passenger quarters, families had been killed together, with parents' bodies positioned protectively over their children. The wounds were precise and lethal, single thrusts to vital organs that would have caused rapid death with minimal struggle. Digital reconstruction of the crime scene reveals that the killers had worked methodically through the ship from bow to stern, leaving no survivors. The crew quarters showed evidence that sailors had been killed while attempting to defend themselves, but the precision of their wounds suggested they had been overwhelmed by superior numbers and training. Most disturbing of all, forensic analysis indicates that the ship's human cargo, slaves chained in the lower decks, had been murdered last. The positioning of their bodies suggests they had witnessed the killing of the crew and passengers before being systematically executed themselves. The psychological cruelty of this approach suggests killers who were not just efficient, but sadistic. Underwater archaeology revealed that after the murders were complete, the killers had spent considerable time preparing the ship for its final journey to the bottom of the Mediterranean. They had carefully redistributed the cargo to ensure the vessel would sink in a controlled manner, and they had sealed the ship's holds to prevent bodies from floating to the surface and revealing the crime. Chemical analysis of materials found throughout the wreck indicates that accelerants had been used to ensure the ship would sink quickly and completely. The presence of lead weights in strategic locations throughout the vessel shows that the killers had sophisticated knowledge of naval architecture and underwater dynamics. But the most chilling discovery came when Dr. James Taylor's 3D reconstruction revealed that the entire massacre had been documented by the killers themselves. Hidden compartments in the ship's structure contained wax tablets inscribed with detailed records of the murders, records that read more like military reports than the accounts of desperate criminals. The tablets, preserved by the anaerobic conditions of the seafloor, contained names, descriptions, and inventory numbers for each victim. The passengers were listed alongside their possessions, as if the murders had been conducted for accounting purposes rather than robbery or revenge. Analysis of the handwriting on the tablets revealed that they had been written by at least 3 different people, all of whom had received formal Roman education and military training. The organization and detail of the record suggested that the massacre had been planned and executed by imperial officials rather than pirates or common criminals. Most disturbing of all, the tablets contained references to similar operations conducted on other merchant vessels, suggesting that the Mare Nostrum massacre was part of a systematic campaign of maritime murder that had been authorized at the highest levels of Roman government. The final entry on the tablets, written in a different hand from the others, contained a chilling message that would puzzle investigators for months. Phase 1 complete. Cargo transferred. Proceed to coordinates Beta 7 for Phase 2 initiation. Maintain operational security protocols. Imperial authorizations remain classified level Omega. The language and terminology used in this final message were entirely inconsistent with ancient Roman military or administrative practices. The reference to coordinates and operational security protocols suggested knowledge and planning capabilities that shouldn't have existed in the ancient world, pointing to modern involvement in what appeared to be an ancient crime. Dr. Isabella Romano's investigation took a shocking turn when advanced forensic analysis revealed that the accepted historical narrative about Mediterranean shipping in 47 BCE had been deliberately fabricated to cover up one of the most sophisticated mass murder operations in ancient history, and that this cover-up was being maintained by modern criminals who had been systematically altering archaeological evidence for decades. The first major contradiction emerged when Dr. Elena Vasquez's detailed examination of the victims' remains revealed that the cause of death recorded in contemporary Roman documents was completely inconsistent with the actual forensic evidence. Historical records from Alexandria claimed that the Mare Nostrum had been lost in a sudden storm off the coast of Sicily, but the skeletal evidence showed clear signs of deliberate violence that had nothing to do with shipwreck or drowning. But the most shocking discovery came when Dr. Sarah Kim's DNA analysis revealed genetic material on the ancient remains that belonged to at least 12 different people whose profiles matched individuals in contemporary criminal databases. The foreign genetic material had been deposited on the 2,000-year-old bones within the past 30 years, proving that modern criminals had been accessing and manipulating the wreck site for decades. Advanced chemical analysis revealed that portions of the ship's structure had been reinforced and altered using materials and techniques that didn't exist in ancient times. Carbon dating of these modifications showed they had been made between 1980 and 2010, during a period when several international maritime crime syndicates had been operating in Mediterranean waters. Digital forensics expert Dr. James Taylor discovered that underwater photographs of the Mare Nostrum wreck taken by previous research expeditions between 1995 and 2020 showed completely different arrangements of artifacts and human remains than what Dr. Romano's team had found in 2024. Someone had been systematically rearranging the ancient crime scene to hide evidence of both historical and contemporary crimes. Most damning of all, Captain Maria Santos's investigation revealed that the coordinates where the Mare Nostrum was discovered were the exact location where 3 modern vessels carrying illegal cargo had vanished without a trace over the past 15 years. Satellite surveillance data showed that ships involved in human trafficking and arms smuggling had been deliberately sunk at the same site where the ancient massacre had occurred. The investigation revealed that the modern criminal organization responsible for these contemporary murders had been using the ancient wreck as a cover for their operations. By sinking modern ships at the same location and mixing new evidence with ancient artifacts, they had created the perfect camouflage for hiding evidence of ongoing crimes. Forensic accounting revealed that the research expeditions that had previously studied the Mare Nostrum had been funded by shell companies connected to international crime syndicates. The criminals had been using legitimate archaeological research as a front for accessing the wreck site and maintaining their cover-up operation. But the most disturbing revelation came when linguistic analysis of the ancient tablets found in the ship revealed that some of the inscriptions had been added recently, using artificially aged materials and techniques designed to fool archaeological dating methods. The criminals had been systematically altering the historical evidence to support their contemporary cover story. Dr. Romano's team discovered that the ancient records describing the Mare Nostrum's cargo and passenger manifest had been partially fabricated using information about modern victims who had been murdered and dumped at the wreck site. The names and descriptions on some of the tablets corresponded to missing persons reports filed by families of trafficking victims who had disappeared in the Mediterranean over the past 2 decades. Advanced forensic analysis revealed that the sophisticated planning evident in the ancient massacre had been used as a template for modern operations. The same methodical approach to mass murder, body disposal, and evidence concealment was being employed by contemporary criminals who had studied the historical crime and improved upon its techniques. The investigation revealed that the modern trafficking network had been operating for over 40 years, passing knowledge and techniques down through generations of criminals who had perfected the art of maritime murder and concealment. They had used the Mare Nostrum site as a training ground for new operatives, teaching them ancient techniques updated with modern technology. Most shocking of all, the evidence suggested that the original 47 BCE massacre hadn't been committed by Romans at all, but by time-traveling criminals from the 20th century who had been using advanced technology to alter historical events and create perfect cover stories for their contemporary crimes. The ancient murders had been committed by modern killers who had then created false historical records to hide their activities across multiple time periods. Dr. Isabella Romano's archaeological investigation transformed into a full-scale international criminal inquiry when Captain Maria Santos's anti-trafficking unit discovered that the Mare Nostrum case was connected to active homicide investigations spanning 15 countries and involving over 300 missing persons from the past 3 decades. The forensic examination expanded beyond traditional archaeological techniques to include methods borrowed from contemporary mass murder investigations. Dr. Elena Vasquez's analysis of both ancient and modern remains found at the site revealed a pattern of systematic execution that had been refined and perfected over multiple time periods, suggesting a continuous criminal organization operating across centuries. DNA extraction from the underwater crime scene revealed genetic profiles that were entered into international law enforcement databases, producing matches with individuals suspected of involvement in human trafficking, organ harvesting, and maritime piracy. The genetic evidence proved that known criminals had direct physical contact with both ancient artifacts and recent victims, violating international laws protecting cultural heritage while committing contemporary murders. Digital forensics analysis of underwater surveillance cameras installed by previous research expeditions revealed suspicious activities around the wreck site during periods when the area was supposedly restricted to scientific research. Enhanced video analysis showed individuals with sophisticated diving equipment accessing the site and performing unauthorized procedures using technology far beyond what legitimate archaeologists would require. Financial investigation revealed that the shell companies funding Mare Nostrum research were actually money laundering operations for a network that had been profiting from human trafficking for over 50 years. Bank records showed payments to corrupt officials, researchers, and maritime security personnel who facilitated unauthorized access to the protected archaeological site. Satellite GPS tracking data and communication intercepts revealed that several suspect vessels had been regularly visiting the coordinates where the Mare Nostrum was located, despite the area being designated as a restricted archaeological zone. Signal intelligence analysis showed coded communications about historical preservation activities and artifact maintenance that corresponded with times when new victims were being added to the site. Forensic accountants discovered that the criminal network had generated over $2 billion in profits by using the ancient wreck as a disposal site for victims of their trafficking operations while simultaneously selling authentic artifacts looted from the site to private collectors around the world. The same location was being used for both murder and cultural heritage crime on an industrial scale. Behavioral analysis of the crime scene evidence revealed patterns consistent with organized criminal activity involving multiple cells with specialized functions: acquisition and transportation of victims, execution and disposal operations, site security and maintenance, and financial management of the cover-up operation. The sophistication suggested coordination between traditional organized crime, corrupt government officials, and potentially intelligence agencies. International cooperation between law enforcement agencies in Italy, Greece, Turkey, Libya, Egypt, and Malta revealed that the network had been operating throughout the Mediterranean basin, using multiple underwater disposal sites that were disguised as archaeological locations. The same techniques pioneered at the Mare Nostrum site have been replicated at least 12 other locations. Surveillance operations using advanced underwater monitoring technology revealed that suspects had been systematically removing evidence from the site and replacing it with fabricated materials designed to confuse investigators. Underwater cameras captured individuals using sophisticated equipment to alter the positioning of both ancient and modern remains, maintaining the fiction that all deaths had occurred in ancient times. Advanced forensic techniques revealed that some of the ancient artifacts found at the site were sophisticated forgeries created using artificially aged materials and designed to support false historical narratives. The criminals had been creating fake archaeological evidence to justify their presence at the site while hiding their murder operations beneath layers of fabricated history. Phone intercepts and digital communications analysis revealed that the network included academics, museum curators, and government officials who had been paid to authenticate false archaeological findings and suppress evidence of modern criminal activity. The conspiracy reached into major universities, national museums, and archaeological institutions across Europe. Forensic analysis of underwater sediment cores revealed that the site had been disturbed repeatedly over the past 40 years, with new organic material being added to the ancient layers in patterns consistent with systematic body disposal. Chemical analysis could distinguish between 2,000-year-old remains and victims who have been killed and dumped within the past 5 years. 22 months into the investigation, Dr. Isabella Romano made a discovery that would completely revolutionize understanding of both ancient Mediterranean history and contemporary international crime. While analyzing DNA samples extracted from the Mare Nostrum remains using quantum genetic sequencing technology, her team uncovered evidence that the ancient massacre hadn't been committed by Romans, medieval pirates, or any historical group. It had been carried out by modern criminals using advanced time travel technology who had been systematically altering history to cover their contemporary crimes. The breakthrough came when Dr. Sarah Kim's advanced genetic analysis revealed that DNA samples from the ancient victims contained artificially modified genetic markers that could only have been created using CRISPR gene editing technology developed in the 21st century. The genetic modifications were identical to those found in contemporary trafficking victims, proving that the same individuals had been murdered across multiple time periods. But the most shocking revelation came when quantum dating analysis of organic materials from the wreck revealed that some specimens had negative temporal signatures, meaning they were composed of matter that had been transported backward through time. Dr. James Taylor's digital forensics confirmed that these materials contained isotopic ratios that could only exist in laboratory conditions using technology that wouldn't be invented until 2035. Advanced cryptographic analysis of the inscribed tablets found in the ship revealed that the ancient Roman text contained hidden digital messages encoded using quantum encryption methods that existed only in classified military research. When decoded using advanced AI systems, the messages revealed detailed operational plans for a time-traveling criminal organization called Chrono Syndicate. Captain Maria Santos's investigation revealed that the shell companies funding archaeological research at the Mare Nostrum site were actually fronts for a black site operation that had been conducting illegal temporal manipulation experiments since the 1970s. Financial records showed connections to defense contractors and research institutions involved in highly classified projects related to temporal mechanics and historical intervention. The investigation uncovered evidence that the Chronos Syndicate had been using advanced time travel technology to commit crimes across multiple historical periods, then altering historical records and archaeological evidence to hide their activities. The Mare Nostrum massacre was just one operation in a decades-long campaign to create untraceable murder scenes by scattering victims across different time periods. Forensic analysis of modern victims found at the wreck site revealed that they had been killed using weapons and techniques that perfectly mimicked ancient Roman methods, but with precision that could only be achieved using contemporary knowledge of forensic science and anatomy. The killers had been deliberately creating crime scenes that would confuse investigators by mixing ancient and modern evidence. Archaeological evidence from excavations around the wreck site confirmed that multiple historical periods had been artificially created and maintained by temporal criminals. Ground-penetrating radar revealed layered deposits that violated basic principles of geological stratification, with modern materials appearing beneath supposedly ancient artifacts. Digital analysis of temporal distortion patterns around the wreck site revealed that the area had been subjected to repeated time manipulation events, creating temporal anomalies that allowed the criminals to access multiple historical periods from a single location. The wreck site was actually a temporal nexus point that had been carefully selected and maintained by the syndicate. But detectives were about to uncover something worse, evidence that the Chronos Syndicate had been systematically eliminating historians, archaeologists, and researchers who got too close to discovering their temporal crimes, and that Dr. Romano's investigation had made her team the syndicate's next target for temporal elimination. The investigation reached a critical turning point when Dr. Isabella Romano's team discovered that the Chronos Syndicate had been monitoring their research in real time and was preparing to eliminate the entire archaeological team by transporting them back to 47 BCE to become additional victims of the Mare Nostrum massacre. Advanced temporal monitoring equipment installed around the wreck site detected massive chronological disturbances indicating that the syndicate was preparing for a large-scale temporal operation. Dr. James Taylor's analysis of quantum field fluctuations revealed that someone was charging temporal manipulation devices powerful enough to transport multiple individuals across 2,000 years of history. International law enforcement agencies coordinated an unprecedented operation to expose and neutralize the temporal criminal network before they could escape into the timeline and continue their historical crimes. The operation required cooperation between traditional police forces, military special operations units, and theoretical physicists who understood the technology involved. Captain Maria Santos's anti-trafficking unit worked with Interpol and the European Space Agency to track temporal energy signatures across the Mediterranean basin, identifying multiple sites where the syndicate had been conducting time travel operations. Satellite surveillance revealed that the criminals had been using advanced technology disguised as legitimate scientific research equipment. The breakthrough that exposed the full scope of the conspiracy came when forensic analysis of evidence from the Mare Nostrum revealed the presence of temporal energy residue that could be traced to specific time travel devices. Chemical analysis of these residues led investigators to a research facility hidden beneath the Vatican's secret archives where the syndicate had been conducting their operations. Digital forensics analysis of the facility's computer systems revealed that the Chronos Syndicate had been responsible for hundreds of historical mysteries and unexplained disappearances spanning thousands of years. Their records documented systematic campaigns to eliminate important historical figures, suppress technological advances, and harvest resources from multiple time periods. When law enforcement agencies raided the temporal facility, they discovered sophisticated equipment capable of opening stable portals through time, along with detailed records of thousands of temporal crimes spanning from ancient Egypt to the modern day. The criminals had been operating with virtual impunity across history, using their knowledge of future events to accumulate wealth and power. Financial investigation revealed that the syndicate had been funded by profits from temporal crime, stealing valuable artifacts from the past, assassinating historical figures for payment from contemporary clients, and manipulating historical events to benefit modern criminal organizations. Their temporal operations had generated over $50 billion in profits across multiple time periods. The investigation revealed that many of the world's most famous unsolved mysteries, from the disappearance of the Roanoke colony to the fate of Amelia Earhart, had actually been temporal crimes committed by the syndicate. They had been systematically eliminating people whose survival might have changed history in ways that threatened their operations. Advanced computer modeling revealed that the syndicate's temporal interventions had already caused significant alterations to the historical timeline, preventing technological advances and social progress that could have benefited humanity. Their crimes had literally stolen centuries of human development for their own profit. When confronted with overwhelming evidence of their crimes across multiple time periods, several members of the syndicate attempted to escape by traveling backward in time to periods before their technology could be detected. However, international authorities had prepared temporal containment fields that prevented unauthorized time travel within specified geographic areas. The final phase of the operation to shut down the Chronos Syndicate required international authorities to prevent the criminals from escaping into the timeline while simultaneously working to minimize damage to historical continuity. Dr. Romano's archaeological team worked with theoretical physicists to decode the syndicate's temporal navigation systems and identify all the historical periods they had contaminated with their crimes. The analysis revealed that they had been active across over 4,000 years of human history, from ancient Mesopotamia to the present day. Advanced temporal forensics revealed that the Mare Nostrum massacre had been just one of hundreds of mass murder operations conducted by the syndicate across different historical periods. They had been systematically eliminating threats to their operations while harvesting valuable resources and information from multiple time periods. The investigation uncovered evidence that the syndicate had been manipulating major historical events to create favorable conditions for their criminal operations. They had assassinated leaders, started wars, and suppressed scientific advances to maintain their temporal advantage over law enforcement and potential competitors. When the syndicate's leadership realized they could not escape through time travel, they attempted to destroy their temporal equipment and eliminate all evidence of their operations. However, international authorities had prepared for this possibility and had secured backup systems that preserved crucial evidence of their crimes. Digital analysis of the syndicate's complete operational records revealed that they had been responsible for the disappearances of over 100,000 people across multiple time periods, making them responsible for one of the largest mass murder operations in human history. The scope of their crimes dwarfed any conventional criminal organization. The temporal containment operation required unprecedented cooperation between multiple governments and scientific institutions to prevent the criminals from altering the timeline in ways that could destroy the current reality. Advanced computer simulations were used to predict and prevent paradoxes that might result from the syndicate's desperate attempts to escape justice. Financial investigation revealed that the syndicate had accumulated vast wealth across multiple time periods, using temporal arbitrage to profit from knowledge of future events while simultaneously looting valuable resources from the past. Their assets were hidden across hundreds of bank accounts spanning thousands of years of financial history. When confronted with evidence of their temporal crimes and prevented from escaping through time travel, the syndicate's leadership finally confessed to the full scope of their operations. Their testimony revealed details about temporal technology and its potential applications that revolutionized scientific understanding of time travel and its dangers. The confessions revealed that the Mare Nostrum massacre had been a testing ground for temporal murder techniques that were later applied to eliminate targets across multiple historical periods. The ancient ship had served as both a crime scene and a training facility for temporal assassins who were deployed throughout history. Advanced forensic analysis of all evidence collected from the syndicate's operations allowed authorities to begin the complex process of identifying victims across multiple time periods and working to restore historical accuracy where possible. The investigation had uncovered crimes spanning millennia and affecting the course of human civilization itself. The exposure of the Kronos Syndicate led to the most significant transformation in international law enforcement since the establishment of Interpol, as governments struggled to address crimes that had been committed across multiple time periods and had affected the fundamental course of human history. Dr. Isabella Romano was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for her role in exposing the temporal criminal conspiracy and preventing what scientists calculated could have been the complete destabilization of the historical timeline. Her forensic archaeological techniques became the foundation for new scientific disciplines focused on detecting and investigating temporal crimes. The International Coalition established the Temporal Crimes Division, a multinational organization tasked with investigating historical mysteries that might be connected to time travel crimes and preventing future temporal criminal activities. Dr. Romano was appointed as the division's first director of historical forensics. The victims of the Mare Nostrum massacre were finally given the justice they deserved when international authorities confirmed that they had been murdered not by ancient Romans, but by modern criminals who had traveled back in time to commit their crimes. A memorial was established at the wreck site honoring all victims of temporal crimes across history. The members of the Kronos Syndicate received sentences of temporal imprisonment, a new form of incarceration that involved being sealed in temporal loops where they would experience the same period repeatedly while being unable to affect historical events. This punishment ensured they could never again threaten the timeline while allowing them to contemplate their crimes across subjective millennia. The temporal technology seized from the syndicate was secured by an international scientific consortium and used to begin the complex process of repairing historical damage caused by their criminal activities. Advanced computer modeling was used to identify timeline alterations and restore historical accuracy where possible without creating paradoxes. Educational institutions worldwide implemented new curricula focused on temporal ethics and the responsibility that advanced civilizations have to protect the integrity of history. The Mare Nostrum case became a foundational example of how the misuse of advanced technology could threaten the very existence of human civilization. Museums and archaeological institutions established new protocols for detecting temporal contamination in historical artifacts and implemented security measures designed to prevent unauthorized access by individuals with time travel capabilities. Advanced scanning technology became standard equipment for identifying anachronistic materials in ancient collections. The investigation led to the discovery and restoration of dozens of historical figures and civilizations that had been eliminated by the syndicate's temporal crimes. Historians began the massive task of rewriting historical narratives to account for people and events that had been artificially removed from the timeline. International law was expanded to include provisions for temporal crimes, with new treaties establishing jurisdiction and punishment guidelines for offenses committed across multiple time periods. The complexity of temporal jurisprudence led to the establishment of specialized courts with judges trained in the unique legal challenges posed by crimes affecting multiple timelines. The revelation that major historical events had been artificially manipulated by time-traveling criminals led to a period of global reflection about the nature of human progress and the responsibility that advanced civilizations have to protect historical integrity for future generations. The massacre aboard the Mare Nostrum reminds us that some crimes transcend not just geography and culture, but time itself, demonstrating how advanced technology in the wrong hands can threaten the very foundations of human history and civilization. Dr. Isabella Romano's groundbreaking investigation proves that the pursuit of justice must evolve alongside criminal capabilities, showing how traditional forensic archaeology could be adapted to address crimes that span millennia. Her team's ability to solve murders committed across multiple time periods established new standards for scientific investigation in an age where criminals might have access to technologies beyond our current understanding. The case reveals how power and greed remain constant throughout human history, but technology amplifies their potential for destruction. The Kronos Syndicate's ability to commit crimes across thousands of years while accumulating wealth and resources from multiple time periods represents the ultimate expression of criminal ambition unconstrained by traditional limitations of time and space. The systematic murder of 180 innocent people aboard the Mare Nostrum illustrates how criminals will sacrifice any number of lives to protect their operations and profits. The fact that these deaths were then used as cover for thousands more murders across multiple historical periods shows how evil can compound across time when advanced technology is used for destructive purposes. The investigation demonstrates the critical importance of international cooperation in addressing crimes that transcend traditional boundaries. The collaboration between archaeologists, forensic scientists, law enforcement agencies, theoretical physicists, and government institutions created new models for interdisciplinary investigation that could address threats to human civilization itself. For the scientific community, the case established the importance of protecting both historical evidence and advanced technology from contamination and misuse. The temporal criminal's ability to alter archaeological evidence for decades without detection highlighted the need for new verification methods and security protocols to maintain the integrity of human knowledge. The revelation that respected academic institutions had been unknowingly facilitating temporal crimes for decades emphasizes the importance of transparency and accountability in research funding and oversight. The case proved that even well-intentioned scientific work could be exploited by criminal organizations with sophisticated knowledge of academic and institutional weaknesses. Perhaps most importantly, the Mare Nostrum investigation demonstrates that justice has no statute of limitations when the right tools and determination are applied to uncovering truth across any span of time. The fact that modern science could not only solve a 2,000-year-old mass murder but also prevent ongoing temporal crimes shows that human ingenuity and cooperation can overcome even the most sophisticated criminal enterprises. The case also raises profound questions about the nature of historical truth and the responsibility that comes with advanced technology. The discovery that much of what we considered established historical fact had been artificially manipulated by time-traveling criminals forced humanity to reconsider how we understand the past and protect the future. The empty waters where the Mare Nostrum once sailed now carry new significance as a reminder of how crime and corruption can persist across any span of time without proper vigilance and accountability. The ancient trade routes of the Mediterranean, which carried commerce and culture between civilizations for millennia, also carried criminals whose ambitions transcended the normal limitations of human existence. But the case also serves as a testament to the power of truth and justice to prevail regardless of how sophisticated the attempts to hide them become. The voices of 180 murder victims, silenced for over 2,000 years, ultimately spoke through modern science to expose criminals who thought their perfect hiding place in the past would protect them forever. In the end, the ancient shipwreck full of bodies became the key to understanding humanity's greatest vulnerability to advanced technology and our most powerful defense against those who would exploit it. The investigation that began with bones on a seafloor ended with protections that could preserve the integrity of human history for all time, proving that sometimes the most ancient crimes hold the most modern lessons about justice, truth, and the eternal struggle between those who seek to control others and those who refuse to let evil triumph regardless of how cleverly it tries to hide.